A menagerie of 13 counties where the nights are treacherous, the fog is omnipresent, and the threat of an all-powerful undead lord bringing back his 600-year necromantic tyranny haunts the minds of all. Welcome to Ustalav. Hello everyone. Let's talk about the nation known as Ustalav. Ustalav is one of the many nations in the Pathfinder campaign setting on the world of Golarion. Ustalav is a place of creepy, Ustalav is a place of doom, Ustalav is a place of gothic horror where you can find werewolves and vampires and other terrible things in the forests. Along with the horror that Ustalav is famous for, it's also quite popular for being a place of dark intrigue and impenetrable mystery. It is a place where everybody lives in terror, where everybody's extremely superstitious and scared. And the fact that Ustalav is so terrified means that it needs heroes. It needs adventuring parties, which you can provide as GMs and players. It is a land, like I said before, with 13 counties, which allows for a wide variety of options for whatever sort of niche of gothic horror you're looking for. You have your enchanted forests like the Shudderwood, which are crawling with werewolves and beasts. And how that horror has affected the common people in Ustalav makes it a very interesting nation to play in. And it provides a number of interesting reactions from the common people. Some will cling to any faith that offers them safety and security. Others live cowardly lives and never venture further than that. Some people want to leave Ustalav, and other people see the looming threat of any common thing rising up to be a terrible enemy as an opportunity to seize life by the moment. And sometimes this is a good thing, and sometimes this reaction leads to heroism, and other times it leads to creating more beasts in Ustalav, more murderers and sociopaths. And then they become just another evil that Ustalav has to offer. And whether you take the perilous journey to hope, or completely give up on hope and become a psychopath, that's what defines you in Ustalav. That's what creates the people of Ustalav. But the strangest thing that I learned when I was studying for this show, nobody trusts each other. Trust is almost never valued. Everybody has their own agendas, and they cling to their own beliefs and their own faiths and their own philosophies. Forming groups isn't about being together, it's about making yourself more powerful. Even Ustalav's government is entirely shattered. The 13 counties are ruled independently of one another, and it's almost like a confederacy. Everything's just a loose cooperation, and many times counties have gone to civil war against each other because they've had conflicts of interest. And this kind of separation and distrust is just another terrifying thing in Ustalav. There's nothing in Ustalav that doesn't signify betrayal or terror or distrust. Nobody trusts each other, and everything is terrifying in Ustalav. That's what Ustalav is. Terror and doom. And everybody's trying to get to a better place, but it seems impossible. Let's talk about the biggest terror that Ustalav has ever faced. A little more than a millennia ago, Ustalav was under the control of a lich. A very powerful lich, an arch-lich as he's often called. His name was Tar Bayfon, and the title he was given was the Whispering Tyrant. He led a conquest, which lasted 3 years. After those 3 years, Ustalav was his. The entire country was under his control. After that, he kept the country under his control for 6 more centuries. His rule was entirely unquestioned, and the people who still lived there were entirely oppressed. If they wanted to rebel, they would die. And then after they would die, they would be reborn as undead and just make his forces stronger. He could not be stopped. It took an entire country of paladins, especially trained to do this, 26 years to take back this country. The fear inspired by the Whispering Tyrant hasn't left them. It still resides in the back of their heads today. They still know that he could come back. He's not dead. He's just imprisoned. And there are cultists swarming in Ustalav that would be happy to free their master. Before the tragedy of the Whispering Tyrant, Ustalav was founded 2 millennia ago by a group of Varisian wanderers led by Soyvoda Ustav, and Ustalav takes the name. Ustalav. There you go. And Ustalav, over the centuries, has been frozen in fear, which means that many of the customs that they had back before the Whispering Tyrant still remain today. Many of them are of Varisian heritage, and they haven't lost their heritage today. Many of them still participate in things like hero cards, the worship of Desna. Many of them are still nomads traveling in caravans, like they always have for many, many millennia. Many of them still dance like Varisians, have the same art tastes as Varisians, and worship the same as Varisians, which is why worship of Desna is popular. And as popular as it is for the people of Ustalav to worship Desna, it's also very publicly popular, especially if you're in a position of nobility, to worship Pharasma, the goddess of birth, death, prophecy, and settling the undead, which is why many of the people in Ustalav favor her over other deities. There is also an unfortunate side to the worship of Pharasma, as there always is in Ustalav. There is a movement within the Pharasman Church called the Pharasman Penitents. This group believes that the more tortured and the more pain you incur in your life, the better your afterlife will be, and you will be rewarded for your suffering in this life. And of course in these groups, it's very common to self-flagellate and take other personal sacrifices and induce pain to yourself. And the Pharasman Penitence is not surprising. It was born just a few years after the end of the reign of the Whispering Tyrant. So it's a belief rooted in the fact that life is so terrible now, we have to give up on this life. We have to make life as terrible as possible because there's no hope for this life at all. And we might as well have this belief that how much you make your life worse, the better your afterlife will be. Yet another sign of how tortured the people of Ustalav are. And on the flip side, for many people who have given up on the pursuit of hope, there's the common worship of the goddess Urgathoa, who is the goddess of undeath and therefore necromancy, as well as, interestingly enough, gluttony. The reason why worship of her is popular is because life is hopeless. Live for today. If you're going to die tomorrow, why not have an orgiastic party today and eat until your stomach hurts? Also, in some areas of Ustalav, food is not as common as in other places, so it might be helpful to pray to Urgathoa that your stomach will be full. Along with its extremely strange religions, they also have a number of horrible superstitions. As much as they think their superstitions will bring forth bad spirits, they also often believe in them quite a bit and give them a lot of credence. Suspicious credence. Among some of these include hair reading. They believe the dead can look upon the living through the eyes of crows. They also believe that crossing a black cat is, same as in this world, bad luck. And with all of that out of the way, let's get to the heart of the matter. We need to discuss these counties because they're all different forms of this gothic horror, fear-struck sort of thing. But before we do that, let's divide up Ustalav into its 3 sections it's usually divided up into. First of all, we have Soyvoda, which comprises 9 of Ustalav's counties. These counties are normally ruled by 1 count, and then the counts convene with the king, and that's how things are normally arranged. And all of the counts tend to have their own political views. Apart from that, we have 3 counties that broke away from that system about 40 years ago, called the Palatinates. The Palatinates run on more of a council sort of system. It's a little bit more democratic. And the 3 counties that comprise this are Wieland to the farthest north, Lozeri, and Canterwall. They all operate on that sort of system. Our 3rd section of Ustalav is one of the counties, which is Verlich, it has no ruler. It's just tortured, and it's kind of governed and watched over by Lastwall, which is a completely different country apart from Ustalav, but they kind of watch over it. Keep that lich that ruled a country for 600 years. They keep that from happening again, because Lastwall is comprised of lovely people. Unlike in Ustalav, where everybody can't stop bickering. The first one we'll talk about is Amans. Amans is a county with very tightly packed geographical features. The east side is packed with mountains, and the west side begins to lower into more of a plainsy sort of area, or at least hilly. People of Amans can be very self-reliant. Many of them are able to fend for themselves, and many of them up in the mountains live in very tightly packed communities. Ardil is a county which used to be the home of the country's capital. Ardil used to be a thriving county, but about 40 years ago, when their former king went senile, the king decided to change the capital to a county which was much farther south. After that happened, everybody who relied on the nobility and royalty to support them began to suffer. If you're looking for a police state that threatens to run everything, Barstoy is the county for you. Long ago, when he was very young, Count Neska pulled the county of Barstoy out from its suffering and its poverty, but he also demanded everything to be rigorously enforced, and he still keeps that stance today. Even today, Count Neska demands strict worship of Pharasma and demands that every single hamlet and town be made in a similar fashion. If you were to go to one and then to go to another, they would look almost identical. Kaliphas is a county that borders the lake in Carthan, which is a very large dominating lake to the south of Ustalav. Today, Kaliphas is the place that houses the capital of the same name. Hosting the capital, it is now home to the new nobility. Canterwall is well known for being a breadbasket for Ustalav, providing them with much of their food. However, it's also on the border of a country swarming with orcs, and they frequently get pillaged and have tried to build walls against them again and again, and it never seems to work. And as such, that makes them fairly racist against orcs and half-orcs and that sort of thing. To the north of Canterwall is a county called Lozeri, which is filled with the forest known as the Shudderwood, which is known to be an enchanted forest. And it's also swarming with werewolves and vampires, and its people are almost half-beasts themselves, even if they aren't under the effects of lycanthropy. Ordronto, on the sort of east side of Ustalav, on the far north, is well known for their oppression of the Kelid people. The Kelid people are extremely tribal and savage. They share our north border with a nation known as the World Wound, which isn't so much a nation as a crusade of demons that cannot seem to be stopped. And as the demons have come out of the world wound, the Kelids have run away from the demons. And as the Kelids have run away from the demons, they've run into Ordranto. And as the Kelids have tried to enter Ustalav, Ordranto has repeatedly killed Kelids for the past century. A lot of their architecture is built around putting gargoyles on every single place in your house so that you can draw superstitions as a weapon against the Kelids, a psychological weapon. Because they've killed so many of the Kelids, they often come back as ghosts or undead. So now they're haunted by that as well. To the east of Ordranto is Scenaria. Scenaria is well known for its musicians, its singers, its dancers, its instrumentalists. Like in Ordranto, many Kelids have died there. With all of the blood spilled of Kelid witches and magic users, the marshes have become tainted with magic, and strange things happen in Cenaria's marshes. Heading back to Amans, we have a country called Ulkazar, which Amans couldn't be bothered to properly govern, because Ulkazar is in a part of the mountains that is so treacherous and oddly shaped that it's difficult to patrol and govern properly, so it's a nation all its own. Ulkazar contains the Monastery of the Vale, which long ago used to be the widest wealth of information known to mankind. A Pharasman library of sorts where people would go to gain information, and religiously do so for a long time as monks. However, somewhere along the way, it was infiltrated by cultists of Norgorber, who wanted the secrets that are in there because their religion is built around gaining significant information. Cultists of Norgorber found the fact that there were so many secrets interesting, and in doing so, secretly overtook the entire monastery and now control it entirely. There are no actual Pharasmans in the Monastery of the Vale left, although they pretend to be Pharasmans. And the cult of Norgorber that has overtaken the Monastery of the Vale calls themselves the Anaphexia. On the far southeast, we have a nation called Varno, which is relatively safe for Ustalav. Many of the old Varisians who weren't as traumatized by the Whispering Tyrant came here and have resettled. So it is more true to the old Varisian culture than the Varisian culture that was tainted by the horrors of Ustalav. And as such, Varno is a little bit more proud to celebrate their old Varisian heritage. To the west of Varno is Versax. It is extremely significant to people that understand the flow of ley lines and where magical energies tend to gather the most. However, this thinning of the magical veil has sometimes driven people insane and created cults based on what these people saw when they went insane. People often, if they're more sensitive to the arcane energies that are just seeping around here, will sometimes experience shifts in personality and go entirely crazy. Versailles is a county where you can find things that are warped and things that are strange. And if you like your Cthulhu Lovecraft literature, you can find a lot of Cthulhu-ish things. Wieland was made popular for the University of Lepidstadt. Lepidstadt is the county's capital, and you can go to the University of Lepidstadt to study things that are strange, or of course to get a very good education. The University of Lepidstadt is extremely prestigious. Because of the University of Lepidstadt, many of the people here are quite sophisticated, and sometimes this results in the government being extremely bureaucratic and making decisions that sometimes seem to bend ethics. For example, spoiler, in one of Paizo's major adventure paths, this was the place where a flesh golem was given a fair trial. Now to the southwest is the Dark Place, the place where the Whispering Tyrant sleeps. This county is called Verlich. This entire county is tortured by arcane storms and necromantic energies seemingly emanating from the Whispering Tyrant himself, even though he's asleep. There's also, as you would expect, cult activity here, especially from the Whispering Way. Also, Ustalav is the headquarters of a very secretive secret society known as the Esoteric Order of the Palatine Eye. A very long name for a group that's essentially the Freemasons. It was founded a number of years ago as a fraternal organization, and then eventually one of the leaders' manors burned down. And then as it burned down, it was revealed that he had a 33-foot tall obsidian egg sort of shape in his house, which is a very strange obelisk indeed. The Esoteric Order of the Palatine Eye is also known for having their members recite things in a twisted form of ancient Osiriani, which is the language that it's kind of Egyptian-ish, which is a language that nobody in this area speaks. And it's quite cryptic to everybody in this area. Plus, it's not even the real version of the language, so what's going on there, Which, since we're on the topic, let's talk about how Ustalav can be a place of many conspiracies. If you have ideas about aliens or other things such as that relate to conspiracy theories, now is a good place to Pathfinderize it and put it in this place. For sex is especially a good place to put all of your conspiracy theory ideas. Anyway, that is all I have to say for today. If you would be interested in learning more concretely about Ustalav, you can buy the book that I bought for about, $13 as a PDF. And that book is called Rule of Fear, written by F. Wesley Schneider, one of my most favorite Pathfinder authors. If $13 is too much for you, which I can perfectly understand, there's always the internet. Go to pathfinderwiki.com and give them some of your eyeballs. Since we're on the topic of Ustalav, don't literally do that. This video was meant to intrigue you and get you interested in Ustalav, and I thought it would make a wonderful Halloween episode. Also, I made this episode on my birthday, so happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. I still don't know how to end these videos, so I'm going to cover the camera with a scarf. And now I'm going to whisper to the microphone. Good night, Ustalav. Good night.